Hello. Thank you so much for joining me. How you doing? I'm quite interested to react to this video, Why I Left America 1 year ago, by Christian Grossi. Check him out, link down below. Apparently he left America. You know, a lot of people are talking about leaving America, as they do every election cycle. When their political opposition gets elected, they talk about leaving America. Pretty common. And I guess a lot of people actually are, like, doing it now. I mean, this guy left a year ago, so he avoided the entire election cycle. Maybe that's the way to do it. But there's lots of different reasons people leave America. And I'm always curious to hear why. Let's do it. Sometimes it has some interesting insights.
15 months ago, I sold and donated everything I owned in the US to go and travel the world and eventually live
Okay, so he left over 2 years ago.
somewhere else. But I know for most people, that sounds like a very difficult task to do, mentally, financially, physically. But for me, it was really clear that I wanted to leave. So here are the reasons why I left the United States and wanted to live somewhere else. Number one, cost of living. I lived in New York for about 22 years. I've had 15 plus jobs, working 2 at all times. I was even kicked
Oh my God. Working 2 jobs, that's wild to me. That's crazy.
out of my house at 19 and
I mean, I don't even really understand logistically how you do that. You know, people talk about having 2 jobs. I guess they're 2 part-time jobs? Because how could you work 8 hours a day and then go to another job? Maybe a full-time job and a part-time job. That might be it, like on the weekends.
never went home. So I understand how expensive it is to live in New York on your own. And I understand that New York is a more expensive part of the United States than others, but this is generally what it costs nowadays to live in most parts of the United States. I remember spending money on rent, food, car, because it's required basically in the US to own a car. It's a society that's run on the car. All the insurance.
That's interesting because he's from New York, which is one of the places where maybe you could get away with not owning a car if you're in New York City. But even then, he still felt he needed to own a car.
Is healthcare. I was spending on a minimum about $2,500 per month. And honestly, I was spending that money on a life that was super repetitive, and I just didn't feel happy. I didn't feel like I was getting anything out of it. I felt like every week was the same thing of doing work, going to the gym on the week.
It's kind of funny because it's now that I've, reacted to so much stuff about how the European mindset and culture, he's basically just summing up the very typical Americans live to work. Europeans work to live. And I guess he didn't enjoy that.
Weekend, seeing a friend or two, and then you just restarted it. So I got tired of spending my money on that sort of life. So I decided to get rid of it and leave. And if you followed my journey around the world, you know how much my budget is. I spend roughly $1,500 on everything while traveling. So in a sense,
it is crazy how the American economy, it seems to suck every dollar you have. If you have a normal, like say you have an average job, the economy will just find it one way or another to take every dollar you earn from you. You really need to have like a high paying job or just like a different kind of a job to escape that, what feels like a hamster wheel, I feel like.
It is cheaper to travel around the world all the time than it is to live statically in the United States. And since leaving, I've experienced so many different cultures.
But how do you make money?
Different experiences. I've gotten new perspective on ways of life that were similar and different to what I had in the US, and been able to implement changes that have made me so much happier in those aspects. Number 2 would be the direction of the country. And if there's going to be anything that's controversial about what I'm saying in this video, it's probably going to be this, because there's going to be people that disagree with what I'm saying. But again, like I said earlier, that's totally fine. Now, this is something that I noticed 2 or 3 years ago, that I felt like the country was going in a direction where we were more worried about things going on outside of the United States rather than inside the United States.
What a fascinating, it is an interesting, because to be honest, when he said country's going in the wrong direction, I wasn't even sure what he would be saying. You know what I mean? It feels like both ends of the political parties, whether you're left or on the right, here in America feel that way, that we're going in the wrong direction. So it's like, I don't even know. I wasn't exactly sure what he meant. And I still am interested, like, because you can look at that through the lens of different ends of the spectrum. A lot of people, a lot of conservatives right now are like, stop funding, Ukraine and, all these foreign wars, Israel and, all these things. But also liberals are like, stop funding these things and, or stop funding, at least Israel and spend the money in the United States.
Like, for example, infrastructure. Did you know that there are 46,000 bridges in the United States that are structurally deficient? But we send so many
That sounds like a lot of them.
aid packages all over the world to different countries to help them with their issues. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but don't you think that it'd be more important to fix the problems at home rather than abroad? And
It's very interesting to me, in my opinion. It's just interesting. Especially because I feel like most people wanting to leave America are more liberal. But what he's saying here is honestly more of a conservative talking point.
I feel
So it's kind of throwing me off.
recently in the United States, as Americans, we are so unbelievably divided that we don't care.
Even though, in my opinion, something like that, like what he just said, shouldn't really be a partisan thing to say. Like, it's okay to have that thought and not be just, a partisan.
Care anymore. We are so unbelievably divided that we don't care anymore about what makes the country better. We just individually want certain aspects to be better regardless of how the other side feels. It's about making one particular issue better while ignoring the rest, which may be a reason why it seems like nothing's been done for so long to make the country move forward. Also, I want to ask...
It kind of feels like we're at this point where America kind of grew, the economy grew a lot. And before it was more about, okay, how do we structure the country to succeed? And now it's like, now that it did succeed, it's like, people are just like, okay, give me my piece of the pie. Give me my piece. Like that's more so what they want the politicians to do. Like, figure out a way to where I get a piece of this pie. Okay? I want to be rich. Which is, obviously that's a huge part of America is, that's the incentive structure is everybody wants to be rich. But it is still interesting to me that that's kind of, it feels like that's been a turning point a little bit.
Ask you, when
It's just ask what you can do for your country, not what your country... I got that backwards. Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. That, I think that's out the window here in America.
When was the last time you walked into a supermarket or a store and what you were buying was made in the United States? Because even though I haven't been in the United States in a long time, I can't remember the last time I did that. For example, here in Argentina, everything is made in Argentina. You can see even this bottle of water, Industry Argentina. Everything in this country is made here. And number 3 are the differences of living in the United States and outside the United States. And all of the things I'm about to say, I found out once I left the United States. Number 1 is the cost of education. Nowhere else in the world do students go to university and college and leave with $100,000 in debt. Actually, most of my friends now live outside the United States. Either they're European or they're Asian from South America. And in Europe, a lot of the countries give the students money. Like, they pay the students stipends to go to school that don't have to be repaid. And out of...
It's kind of remarkable. It does make sense, doesn't it? You want to encourage them to invest in their future, which is, their future is the future of your country.
All days that this video could have been made, today is that special day. The day that the Supreme Court has struck down the president's student loan relief plan. The plan like most politicians in the United States, that they run on this major plan that's going to be groundbreaking and it gets them votes, and then when they get into office, nothing ever happens about it? Yes, that one. Number 2 is
That I have kind of complicated feelings about that specific type of thing. Like the Supreme Court isn't supposed to be doing anything politically. It's just supposed to be seeing if things are constitutional, which whether or not Biden pushing through student relief as an executive order without Congress, whether or not that's constitutional or not, is a separate question from whether or not it's a good thing or not.
work-life balance. I remember when I was in the
And I'm not sure it is constitutional. I don't know. I mean, I guess the Supreme Court said it wasn't.
happens
Now, of course, the Supreme Court is now made up of a lot of conservatives because, Trump got to pick a bunch of justices.
about it. Yes, that one. Number 2 is work-life balance. I remember when I was in the United States, I used to work a job where I was given 0 vacation days. This was a 40-hour-a-week job that I worked for the state, and I was given no vacation days for the entire year. But in Europe, it is very
How crazy is that? I mean, you could still take vacation, you just don't get paid. You just got to figure out a different way to how you're going to pay rent that month, I guess.
normal to get 1 to 2 months of vacation, and this is per year. While in the United States, getting 1 week of vacation per year is the normal, and anything over that, someone will be like, wow, that's a pretty good job. And number 3 is the issue in the United States that gets talked about
2 weeks. Count your lucky stars.
all the time, but no changes ever happen. Healthcare. I pay $20 a month for international healthcare insurance, and this covers my doctor's appointments. If I need to go to
What?
the hospital, it gives me like $500,000 in healthcare coverage, which outside of the United States is way more than you would ever need ever. But heck, I even spent 24 hours in a
$20 a month for international healthcare? What?
Moroccan hospital
That's incredible.
without insurance, and it only cost me $30.
Was that in the video or in my room? Yes, this is Dad.
Hi, Dad. Hi, Dad.
Hey, man. Bye. Sorry, my son called on the Dino phone. Back to this. Did this door open behind me? Like, I don't know what just happened. Did my wife somehow sneak this up here? I legit thought that was coming from his video. I am so thrown off right now.
Moroccan hospital without insurance,
Right.
and it only cost me $30. Could you imagine what the cost of that would have been back home? We've
It would have been more than $30 even if you had insurance.
gotten so normal to paying
Just to go.
$2,000 for the ambulance to go to the hospital, $7,000 to deliver a child in a hospital with insurance. But to us, well, if you don't leave the United States, it's normal. Don't get me wrong, not everywhere that I've been is in better shape than the United States. I've been to countries where I'm like, yep, we have it really good at home. I've seen some terrible things while traveling the world to the 60 countries that I've been to, but the
60 countries.
majority of them have made me decide I don't want to go back, which is something that I think
Wow. That's a big statement. Wow, that's amazing. 60 countries. I mean, what an interesting worldview that would get you. I wish I could travel to 60 countries.
is a factor in
That would be hard to do with a toddler.
all of these is the lack of perspective. In the United States, we have the perspective of people from the United States, and we never venture out to go see the other perspective of what it's like outside. Now, I have more personal points that are more specific, but these are the main reasons why I left the United States. And like I said earlier, I would have never known these unless I left and started living and traveling in different countries around the world. But let me know, do you agree with anything that I said? Do you disagree with anything I said? I would love the discussion. Let me know in the comments below. Also, I want to thank all the Patreon, Facebook, and Instagram subscribers for supporting this channel.
Definitely go subscribe to this dude. That was dope. That was awesome. Very interesting. Christian Grossi. So sad America goes to wars instead of helping their own country, greedy politicians. Whoops.
15 months ago,
What am I doing? Oh, and 1.6 billion just for propaganda as well. I've been saying I want to leave for the last 12 years, but I'm finally doing it this coming October. Wow. The US is a system, not a country. Ooh. I've lived all over the world. Asia 10 years, Latin America 3 years, EU 15 years. I'm moving back to Zurich. Not due to cost of living, but quality of life. Switzerland, huh? I could see that being really nice. I agree with your viewpoints 100%. The United States is heading in a direction where people are just numbers and sheep to big corporations. It's a good country to make money, and as soon as you are financially free to then leave immediately. Well, that's kind of hard because most of the money you make is, going toward your bills and cost of living. I've been watching, but if you are, I mean, obviously, there are ways to make money in America. You can definitely become rich. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like one of these people that's just saying, oh, there's no opportunities and everybody's poor in America. No, they're not. There's a lot of rich people. You just have to figure out a way to become rich. And it's not by just having like a normal job. You have to either have an exceptional job like an engineer or a computer programmer or a doctor, or own a business. Of course, that's the American dream. Open a business. And you can become rich. Indeed, indeed. And then that's an interesting perspective. Become rich and then leave to a different country with a different culture where maybe they actually try to enjoy life instead of just working. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Always fascinating. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.